and everybody's thinking about AI. And some organizations will say, what are we doing in AI? Some organizations will say, let's stay away from AI. And there's some that are AI curious, saying like, what could it do for us, AI? The bottom line is that regardless of the technology, regardless of the opportunity, regardless of what you hear, what's happening, the focus needs to be on your client.
Welcome to This is Digital, a podcast brought to you by West Monroe. Join us as we talk to leading experts about bringing the digital mindset to your organization.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to This is Digital, a podcast where we break down the latest digital trends and we share strategies on how you and your company can be digital. I'm your host, Rissa Redden, Partner and Chief Marketing Officer at West Monroe. At West Monroe, we help businesses be digital. But what does that mean? How do we define digital? At its core, digital is a connected mindset and way of working across all aspects of your business. I am honored to introduce today's guest, Milton Santiago, Global Head of Digital Solutions at Silicon Valley Bank. Milton is a global digital leader known for his expertise in creating transformative digital experiences. From the creation of product management teams, API banking, robotics process automation, to omni-channel strategy development, Milton has done it all. Additionally, Milton is also the founder of Fintex Advisors, where he helps banks transform their clients' digital experiences. Milton joins us today to talk about Silicon Valley Bank's journey. Milton, welcome to This is Digital.
Rissa, thanks for having me today. I'm really excited about this podcast and really looking forward to being able to help and share, our experiences, my personal experience with all your audience.
Well, thank you so much, Milton. We are delighted to have you on, and I'm excited to hear more about your experience that has led you to this moment. Silicon Valley Bank has always created services to meet the unique needs and challenges of tech companies, especially in times of rapid technological advancements. What opportunities and what challenges does that tailored approach bring?
So this is a fantastic and amazing client base to serve. The client base that we serve is one that really focuses on transformational experiences that really improve everyone's life in various areas. And they come in different shapes and forms when it comes to maturity and their needs when it comes to banking, for example. But one thing that is really constant is that their focus is on experience. They're looking for the best possible experience because this is what people do. Like this segment really focuses on transforming how we do our business. It could be how we live our lives, how we social. There's all these different type of experiences that they're really focused on. So our client base is anywhere from a individual founder, it could be you, me, it could be two people, to even large, I would say, mature organizations that have financial staff, that have, I would say, a marketing practice, an accounting practice, an accounts receivables, and accounts payable. So the gamut really goes from small to also extremely large. But we also then bank venture capital organizations that really are looking at investment opportunities in startups, but they are in a management capacity, helping them manage their finances. So the client base is very diverse, which is the very first opportunity and challenge. The second is that many of these clients don't have a financial background. For them, they're engineers, they're scientists, they're people that really are focusing on disrupting and changing the way we do things for the better. But banking is not where their focus is. So our job, our opportunity is to demystify the banking aspect of what they do, make their lives easier so they don't have to focus so much on the financials, but still give them the visibility in their financials so that they know that they have a tomorrow to continue to run their business. So it's about ease of use. It's about simplicity. It's about freeing them from the daily, maybe even weekly reviews that they have to do in their financial, for their financial health, and allowing them and empowering them to run their business.
Well, and to me, Milton, and tell me if you think this is a fair assessment, I feel like your work at Silicon Valley Bank is really fueling innovation in the world, and that it's really creating that access to capital, creating opportunity to grow and really bring new and innovative ways of doing things to market. Is that fair?
Oh, absolutely. We're much more than a bank. We are a network. So we provide and assist our clients at various maturity stages in connecting with others. Here's an example, and this is something that really I was amazed. When I first started at Silicon Valley Bank, I underestimated the global footprint of the client base. When we started looking at where our customers bank, we're looking at well over 140 to 160 countries. This is pretty amazing. When you think about Silicon Valley Bank, you think about a bank that is US based, but not one that has a global footprint. And our clients are accessing platforms all over the world, doing business and also doing primarily business in the US. But again, their access is everywhere. So you think about that type of client base and then think about that type of network and the fact that you have first time founders, but you also then have serial founders. And the fact that you have these VCs, these fund managers, you also have a strong account, I would say, service provider presence within our network. There's a lot of opportunities. And I would say, even as a founder myself, when I was a founder, the goal of any founder is to at least have a successful company, right? You want to be successful, or you want to be able to, and you want to be able to grow. But the very first step is establishing your legal entity, followed by your account. And what you find is that most, if not all, will come to Silicon Valley Bank for that.
Well, and I think that you have walked in the shoes of your customers, which I think is a really important point that you're raising of you get it and you understand based on your own experience, which I would think helps you to create a client experience that you would have wanted perhaps as a founder that you're able to create for your customers. And I would love to dig into your client base. You mentioned the global nature of your clients, but I would suspect that you also have clients with really high expectations given their interest in being a founder, that to be in a founder position, you are impatient and you are, and I'm generalizing here, but there's a desire to make great change. And I would think that that's reflected in the interactions that you have with those customers. What's your reaction to that?
You're absolutely right. So our client base has high expectations. I'm trying to add some color to it. Very, very, they expect experiences that are higher than that of what you would expect from another bank because of the nature of the business that they're in. We do have clients that invent something amazingly new that never existed. But we also have a lot of clients that are transforming today's day-to-day activities and creating experiences that just make a lot of sense. Think about all the things that we do. Think about what it was like to ask for a cab and what it is now, maybe 5 to 10 years later. Think about what social media was like. How would you share the birth of a child, a wedding engagement, the gender reveal? How did you do it 10 to 15 years ago, and how do you do it now? Things have changed. These individuals are transforming the way we do business. They're transforming the way we live our lives, and they're highly focused on experience. They have a very low tolerance, an extremely low tolerance for, I would say, experiences that create a lot of friction, things that don't work organically, if you'd want to put it this way, or things that just don't work at all. So one client, if you think about in another bank, may be satisfied with 15 steps to complete a transaction because that's how it's always been for the last 20 years. But these individuals are focused on, how do I take 15 steps and cut it down to 2? How do I cut it down to 5? And it's not just about the steps, but then how do you enrich each step you take where the steps themselves are gratifying and are purposeful? So the expectation is really high when it comes to experience. And I would say, when you look at a Silicon Valley Bank client, if they give you, let's say, a client satisfaction score of, let's say, an 8, a 9, or even a 10, that satisfaction score is so much stronger and higher than any other client base because the expectations are higher. Remember, these are individuals that are disrupting the space and they are disrupting the business that they're in. And when they look at your experiences, they're looking at it from a lens of someone who is an expert in transformation. It could be intimidating. It could be scary at times. And it could be also exhilarating when you have someone say, wow, that was a great experience. And these are individuals that have a history of creating amazing experiences and successful companies. It's truly both challenging, but it's also, for the geek, it's pretty exciting.
Milton, just as a quick aside, I'm reminded with your comment about the customer satisfaction score and that to get an 8 is more like an 11 or a 12 or a 13. I participated yesterday in Hot Ones. I don't know if you're familiar with this YouTube sensation. And there was a hot sauce that I was invited to try that was an 11 out of 10. And so it feels like you're sort of like the 11 out of 10 then with the scoring metric that's currently used, given those high expectations of your customers.
Yeah, no, I use sometimes this example as if you were to invite a well-known, let's say, chef to your home for dinner, and you cook every day, like I cook every day. But if you had someone that had a restaurant chain and basically had, 5-star, 4-star, whatever the highest review is on it, and they're coming to your home for dinner, how would you feel? What would you think about the meal that you're preparing? You would think about more than just what you're cooking. You're thinking about how you set the table. You're thinking about if you drink wine, what kind of wine would go with this? Is it the right wine? There's all these things that are going racing through your head because the person who's coming to dinner isn't mom, dad, or cousin.
Right.
This is someone who is an expert in this field. And probably even if you are creating an ethnic meal, this person probably knows how to make the meal of your ethnicity even better than you do. This is the type of person that will walk through the door, take a whiff, and say, you burned it, right? And you're like, I thought I aired out the room. No, but they know. And you're like watching them for that very first bite, right? And then you go like, you have to see what the reaction is. So that's the type of client base that we have. We have a client base that really focuses on experiences and values experiences because that's what they do. That's what they do every single day. They reinvent, they improve, and they transform how we live. And that's what we try to do for our clients. We try to reimagine how cash management, treasury management functions should be and take away the unnecessary and focus on that which is needed and also enhancing what they provide because we value our clients' time.
Milton, we talk a lot at West Monroe about this idea of what's a fad and what's a fundamental. And so as you think about new technologies that are rapidly emerging, being launched, how do you think about what's flash in the pan versus what's here to stay?
Oh, this is a really hard topic because I'll use this term and I'll try to be incredibly kind with it. I have lived and continue to live through chasing press releases. And we all seen this happen where an organization announces we're doing this, and another organization says I'm doing that. And you, as let's say if you're a founder, or let's say if you're a financial institution, and you're really trying to honestly pay attention to the industry, trying to serve your clients, trying to do the right thing, trying to stretch your investment dollars in the right investments, you could fall victim of chasing the press release. And that's something that is really hard to not focus on because frankly even if you're not the press release chaser, you may deal with your leadership may be the press release chasers and they may ask, should we be doing this or should we be doing that? So when it comes to identifying what type of investment, what solution you should be going after, what disruptive innovation that is just emerging or has matured and has leaped in its maturity. And let's say, for example, AI. This is one that is on everybody's mind. Everybody's thinking about AI. And some organizations will say, what are we doing in AI? Some organizations will say, let's stay away from AI. And there's some that are AI curious, saying like, what could it do for us, AI? The bottom line is that regardless of the technology, regardless of the opportunity, regardless of what you hear, what's happening, the focus needs to be on your client. My North Star and what has helped our organization succeed and create experiences that are valued and reward how our clients do business with us has been really focusing on our clients. And the answer is going to be to every organization different. So one of the things that was critical for my role coming to Silicon Valley Bank when I started many years ago was first spending time understanding who our clients were. Because something that works for a large super regional bank is not going to work. Something that works for a community bank may not work. Something that works for, I'd say, a global bank would not work. So you have to first reset and ask yourselves, who is our client? What are their needs? What problems do they need solved? And then evaluate what you have and where do you need to be. Because it could be so easy to fall into the trap of just build, or create. And at the end of the day, I'll go back to that analogy of inviting someone for dinner. The most successful restaurants have the shortest menus. Think about that for a second, right? When you go to a restaurant that has like 3 pages, what's great? And if you ask the server, what do you prefer? They'll probably mention 1 to 2 meals. They won't mention all 15. So keeping it simple, doing what matters will help you, and it will help you cut through the noise. But you have to take a step back and really listen to your client. That's going to be it. You will be successful as long as you're successful in the eyes of your client.
Well, and Milton, you mentioned 3 different buckets for AI. Which do you fall into?
I'm kind of like I'm the geek in it, so I'm all in when it comes to AI.
Mm-hmm. And what does AI? What does all in mean for you?
It means that we have, first of all, most organizations have been using AI in one form or the other, right? So it's something that as I educate my leadership, and they say, so hey, what about AI? It's about, first of all, laying a foundation. And this is not something foreign. It's something that you have. It's something that you do. The only thing is that it has been evolving, transforming, and it's becoming more than it was before. And for our organization, for me personally, AI, I think, is a disruptive solution that is both an enabler, but it also could be a disabler if you don't pay attention and really learn how to use it. So what I would advise any organization that is considering AI is to first start understanding it. I'm a firm believer of experimentation, right? And I'm also a firm believer of releasing in a contained way, and this is going to be kind of contradictory when you think about those 2 words: releasing, but still keeping some type of containment around allowing your teams to experiment and drive innovation in an AI. Right? Because if you try to structure too much, the solution, you don't really see all the amazing things that can happen. So create an environment that, and this is my focus, is creating an environment where our teams can actually experiment, play, and almost do like, you hear this a lot in the tech space, hackathons. Like, how would you use this to create a solution? And you'd be able to find amazing problems that are being solved. It's not tech for the sake of tech, but it's really leveraging this tech to solve a need. And as I look at AI, focus internally first, right? Once you've created a sandbox or a place where people can play, understand, create an internal solution that you can solve, learn from that solution. I'm a really big person because when it comes to risk, we are a financial institution. So what we do matters, right? So we just can't go out there and start doing crazy stuff. And if the wrong picture gets shown, or let's say, for example, we give wrong information, in our case, having a disclaimer is not a get out of jail card when it comes to that kind of stuff, right? So we have accountability. So experiment, learn, prove internally. Look at your operational opportunities where you can use AI. Look at your servicing opportunities where you can use AI. Look at anything that could help your associates be more efficient. But then also, it's really important that as you're using AI and you're learning AI, that you have kind of like an overseer of it. So an AI can recommend something, but make sure you have someone that's actually reviewing and approving and that recommendation. And then finally, in my journey for AI is then making that AI capability available to customers. And like I said, we use AI today. We use AI where a customer wants to send a payment to a specific client of theirs or a recipient, and the system will identify the fields that they provide and suggest payment route options. That's a form of AI. But there is more that we can do now with artificial intelligence. And that more is defined by your organization. So my more is very different than your more, and it's going to be different from every organization's more. So focusing, going back on your client and knowing what that more is going to allow you to understand how to use AI best.
Well, and Milton, I'm curious about the guardrails or the ability that you've created for your employees to play with AI. I know at West Monroe, we had a similar desire that it's important to experiment and to see exactly what the tool is capable of, but how do we create a safe environment to do so? And so we created our own version of a generative AI tool that we lovingly called Nigel. And that's a reference to NGL, which is our mission where we focus on the next generation of leaders. And so Nigel now is this thing that we have internally, and we're having all sorts of clients come to us and say, I want that, I want to create that for my team, because it is that safe place to play, if you will. So how do you think about the guardrails or creating a safe space for people to experiment?
Yeah, very, very, very similar. So there are several experiments that we're running. One of them could be something as simple as experimenting with inbound email, right? Having an AI read it and then having the AI determine what would be the best response. Identify, especially as you're dealing with so many emails, identifying sentiment and emotion, right? Something that you may miss and may change the way you respond. Also, when you think about all the analytics that are required in order to extend, let's say, or even establish a line of credit, right? So collecting all the information that's needed, that's a very time-consuming processing. Being able to identify those opportunities much sooner is a great opportunity for any organization, and especially for ours. And so we have these mini experiments that are going on, and we also have pilots, right? This is not a foreign term for many folks. So we have different groups that are experimenting with it, either in the servicing area, and servicing could be many things, right? It could be our relationship manager teams, it could be our call center teams, it could be various teams within the organization that are looking at how AI would benefit and help them in their process. But the most important thing for us is it's about the I would say the evolution in that process that we just mentioned. First, internally exposed. Prove it. Make sure that you have the right governance around it, the right compliance, the right risk associated with it. And then once it's proven and you know how far you can take it and what it can do, then move it to the next stage. We're in the internal stage right now. We're in the internal stage looking at that. And keep in mind that when I talk about where we are in that stage, I'm talking about generative AI, not the standard AI, but the new generative AI that is like what you're mentioning with your Nigel. If you think about ChatGPT and you think about all these things that are out there that are a little bit more, I almost quote it as the Iron Man AI, where it's a lot more. Those pieces, that's where, we're taking a cautious but very deliberate step in really understanding how it can benefit our clients.
So, Milton, something that I'm really curious about as a leader at Silicon Valley Bank, how do you balance the importance of innovation, knowing that you've got this challenging group of customers with very high expectations? Maybe challenging is not the right word. You have a customer set with high expectations. How do you balance innovation and being cost effective?
That's a great question. And it's, I think, a challenge that all organizations face. And definitely we're no stranger to that. We really look at data, analytics, client feedback. We also survey our relationship sales organizations. We spend an enormous amount of time with our call center, understanding, the calls that are coming in, even to the point where it's not uncommon to sit down and just listen to calls. Just, what are people calling about? What are clients calling about? What do they need assistance with? And as we think about how we invest, every organization has organizational goals, right? Everyone does. So everyone has a North Star. The challenge is about any North Star is that sometimes heading to the North Star is not a straight line. That makes sense, right? Sometimes you could zag, and sometimes you can go on an angle and still hit that North Star. So as we think about our organizational goals and where we want to invest, it goes back to, once again, having multiple areas of feedback and then aligning our investments and how we're going to solve those specific client needs through those opportunities that we've identified. So I'll give you one example. So right now, and this may not be common for many, but our strategies extend all the way up to 2026. And for those who are listening to the podcast, it's 2024. So 2024, 2025, and 2026. And it's clear as you're looking at your investment and you're trying to forecast the future, that the further you go, the harder it is to predict what 2026 looks like. So what will happen is you'll have a lot of clarity in 2024, good clarity in 2025, and I think you have aspirational clarity in 2026. But these are all connected dots that go throughout. So as we look at our investment and we look at the technology emergence, we do have standard routines within our organization to collect that feedback, prioritize that feedback, align it with the organizational goals, and also with opportunities. But I'll tell you, there also are opportunities in every organization, and we're no stranger to it, where there are things that you never planned for. So if you think about, there is run strategies, right? What does it take to run your business? And then you have growth strategies, which is what do you do when you want to grow? And what we have to do is allocate and balance enough time to do both and have the flexibility to pivot when we need to. And we're no stranger to pivot. So we pivot a lot. And one of the things that we've adopted as an organization to be able to help us address our organizational needs is Agile. So many banks have implemented Agile, but very few, I think, have really gotten to where they would like to be in maturity. You'll hear people use that there is like different versions. There's Wagile, where people implement a little waterfall and a little bit of Agile. We're actually a true Agile team, implementing, developing, driving, and pivoting. And I'll just give you an example, and this will hopefully help bring home some of the things that we're doing. As customer feedback comes into our organization, and it comes through all these various channels, because we're an Agile shop, as soon as that feedback comes in, it basically gets classified, it gets organized. We determine, is it working as designed and it needs to be improved? We determine, could it be a defect that needs to be addressed? That goes to our product organization. Our product organization evaluates it. And in some organizations, as feedback is received, you have to determine, how do you fund the feedback? How do you incorporate resolving the feedback? In our process, it gets into our standard Agile process. It goes into a story, and it's the power of the product manager, of that leader, to determine when and how quickly they'll be able to address it.
Well, and how do you decide what is worth actioning, right? When you think about the feedback, is it because it's a trend, or it's something that you're hearing there are multiple instances of hearing that? I mean, I think that I do wonder at times about organizations that pivot and pivot and pivot, that are you losing out at some point because you haven't committed to something and been able to hold the line? I think it's an interesting one to wrestle with, of,
Oh, yeah.
Where do you pivot and where do you hold the line? And how do you think about that?
Yeah. It really comes down to having a deep understanding of I continue to say this again, the customer experience. What we have done in our implementation of our solutions is really empower them with deep analytics. Like we know a lot of how our customers use our platform. And if a customer provides us feedback, to give you an example, if you were using our platform, Rissa, and you were to say, hey, it would be better if you did this. And in some organizations, it's very common to have a survey and to get feedback via survey. And you go like, okay, the survey says this. And it would be no surprise that depending on the size of the relationship, like if you're a very large customer, that someone may jump immediately and say, oh, so-and-so, Riza says this, and she's our largest customer. We need to do something about it. And then you're trying to chase that rabbit, right? Or squirrel, depending on what you're chasing. The power of our platform is that not only can we see, Riza, your feedback, but we're also able to see a complete recording of your experience, right? That helps us understand why you have your opinion, and we're able to evaluate your opinion. And this is an area that we're using AI as well. So this is one of the cool things. So when we look at your feedback, and we'll have a survey, that survey then links to, almost like if you were to think about like a VCR or TiVo or any kind of streaming service where you can rewind. I'm able to rewind Rissa's experience, and then I'm able to even apply AI to that experience to say, what did the AI observe in your usage or your experience that could have driven the conclusions that you've had? So we're leveraging AI to do this. Now, with everything, you have to basically make a stand, right? Because you can continue to circle the wagons over and over and over again when it comes to capabilities, and have a true North Star when it comes to what you're trying to solve for. And our teams will look at the capabilities, and they'll classify it in those categories as working as designed. And it's okay to have an opinion that differs from what we've designed. Defect, which could be something that needs to be fixed and improved. Or it could be something that it's just a moment in time where the capability itself, because when you're working in an Agile, you're never really done. It's the version of where you are in that process that you're seeing. So the customer's feedback could be feedback that will be resolved in the next release. So we'll classify it in those three areas. If there is something, we are very lucky because of the analytics, because of the client research, also because we put everything that we do, we make an enormous effort to put it in front of customers, right? Because we want to make sure we're not getting it wrong. And we also have some very seasoned people that understand banking, that have decades of banking experience, but then also understand the founders as well, to make sure that the experiences are at par. The opportunities that we find in our current experiences, I would say, is like sifting through sand to find gold. Think about how much sand you have to go through, right? So the good thing is that while you want to find as much gold as you want, I want to find as little opportunities to correct something we did wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's, if I even said that right. But I'm really looking for transformational nuggets, not, this should be this way or this should be that way, right? So we want to get it 99% of it, we want to get it right. And then maybe that 1%, which is amazing, we want to be able to transform. And that's why we use all the tools that we do in order to get it. So it becomes really difficult. But if you become disciplined, you have the right process, and then you also have the right intake process to support it, it works well. And we've been very happy with our process.
That's awesome. And Milton, a question for you on, how do you think about the financial system and the opportunity to collaborate or for partnerships within the ecosystem? And, it's something that I'm curious to get your take on in particular is Fintex, that are they friend or foe to you and to the work that you do at Silicon Valley Bank?
Yeah, well, we bank them, so they're all our friends.
Uh-huh.
And so we have a very unique experience that we provide our clients. Not only do we provide financial services to help them manage their business, but we also provide the APIs and the technology that's embedded in their business. So in your case, if we were to use you as an example, and you're a founder, and let's say that you were creating a process that either turned into the purchase of something, the payment of something that went into financial services and financial services capabilities and embedded payment solution. Our clients that are banking with us, not only are they using us to understand their receivables, their payables, but then they're actually using our APIs to settle that transaction. So when you hit buy or you hit pay or you're getting paid, our clients are embedding our technology to do it. So it's not uncommon for us to find a client of ours that is providing a similar service that we do at a different scale, leveraging our rails. So we're in a really, really interesting place when it comes to what is competition to you, because our competition could be our client. And we're providing those services to them so that they can compete with others. We also are huge adopters. You know how there's that saying that says you have to eat your own dog food?
Mm-hmm. I believe it's attributed to Steve Ballmer. Yeah, Microsoft. Yeah.
Yep. So one of the things that we do is in many of our solutions, our clients are also our providers. And we have I would say, a higher appetite for that than most organizations do. Because you have to realize that in many cases, we're dealing with organizations that would not pass the muster of a large organization. So if you think about some of these large money center banks, if they were to look at our clients, they would be looking at financial health. How long have they been in business? There's all these things that you would check before you would consider using someone as a service provider. We bank them, we service them, and we use them. So in many cases, I've used founder solutions in my platforms. We do the responsible thing, right? We do our due diligence, but we've been using things that I would say other banks wouldn't, because our success, our client success, are mutually bound. So it's a balance. It's a balance act, but it's definitely something that's been working well for us.
And to build on that just a little bit, how do you feel like Silicon Valley Bank is different than other banks?
We're different in the context of, and before we go into what's different,
sure,
we are the same in the context that we're a bank, right? So we are regulated. We basically have very similar services that other organizations do. The difference is really the client base, right? So a wire is a wire, right? And in one financial institution, you have to input 22 fields of data. In another organization, you may have to input less. One of the things that I would say that is very, very different about our clients and I would say just the maturity of our clients when they start is that what makes us different is that if you think about a business banking or small business customer for any of the other banks that are out there, their client base would most likely be very localized in their business being, and I'll use the word domestic in nature. For Silicon Valley Bank's client base, and this is something that really struck me when I first started in the bank, they're global from birth. So it's not uncommon for a startup that is one person or two people to have to understand FX And if you think about that as a consumer, could your brother, sister, daughter, mom, dad do an FX transaction? Right? Think about just a
And
common
for anybody who's not familiar with Milton, sorry to interrupt you. FX, when you say FX, you are talking about
a foreign currency transaction.
Yep.
So paying someone US dollar and then paying them in euros, or paying them in, let's say, pesos, or paying them in yen. That is not something in the US, it's not something that's common. Now, when you go to Europe, and if you're doing European banking as a consumer, you have access to foreign currency transactions. Our client base, what makes them really unique is that they're global in nature, right? So it's not uncommon for someone who has a startup to have in their client base or in their service provider base need to pay someone in a foreign country and to have to deal with foreign currency. And that is something that I found incredibly unique about this bank, and having to provide FX. Global ACH, for example, is something else that we did very, very early on and is used in what in many cases a large bank wouldn't consider a target client base. And the other thing that I would say is really unique about our organization, outside of the need for foreign currency transactions for our client base, is language. We have changed the language that we use in our application to apply to our client base. So let's say, for example, if I'm a large corporate, or I'm in any of the other financial institutions where you're looking at current day, previous day, you're looking at cash positioning and forecasting. These are, and if you are going for to become a certified treasury professional, it's in the book, right? You study it, you have to pass it, you have to understand it. Well, for our clients, depending on the maturity and where they're at, they're looking at terms that are different, like what is my burn rate? What is my runway? And when you think about burn rate and runway, you're like, well, how does that apply? How's that different? And the fact is that it's not different. It's the actual same, but it's the language is being looked at differently. So our clients want to know how much money they're spending on a daily basis. That's my burn rate, right? They also want to know how many days do they have to remain in business, right? And that is going to be their runway. So their runway is, I have 5 days of run. I have 10 days of run. And this is going to impact their decisions on how much should they borrow. Should they have a marketing strategy? Let's say a Google ads, Facebook ads. Should they do some type of campaign? And for those of you who are listening that are into, in the accounting space, or if you are in a bank, you're going to say like, wow, that sounds like a cash position. And that sounds like a forecast. And you're absolutely right? But the language is different. So what we've done is we've reduced the actual friction associated with how they bank. So the other thing that it makes us a little bit different, and I think that everybody who is a product manager can account for this, is that our client base, depending on the life stage that they're in, doesn't really care about the payment. And I just want to qualify that for a second. So what I mean is, they don't care about wire, they don't care about ACH, they don't care about check. And I think about how many different ways do we have to pay. You have PayPal, you have Zelle, you can have Cash App. There's all these different ways when you have to pay. What they care about is making a payment. And they find it frustrating when they go into a banking service and they have all these different ways to pay and all these different entry points to make the payment, right? They have to go to maybe multiple apps.
Well, and is it similar to the example that you were sharing earlier about a restaurant, right? That people want a limited set of choices to make, and they feel like they're being presented with too many.
It is too many, and they don't know what the requirements are for each payment type. So what we've done is we've simplified how, when a customer is going to make a payment, now keep in mind, I just want to qualify this also, is that when you're larger as an organization, as you're larger, you may have terms and conditions, right? That says you pay me with this currency, you pay me with this instrument type. But we're not talking about this when it comes to this specific client base. They just need to make a payment. And what's important for them is the ability to make the payment. And what's important to them is to do it in a cost-efficient way. So our clients, if you put in your name and address, we tell you how you could pay. And if you think about that, that's how simple is that? Name and address. And if you are able to provide a ABA, and we interpret that ABA is either ACH capable or wire capable, we say, hey, you can do it via either a check, a wire, and ACH. And we provide you what the settlement time would be, and we provide you what the cost is. So think about the options. How many, if we go back to that restaurant example, There are times that when you're sitting at the menu and you're looking at the meal, that your decision may be driven by the cost of the plate that you're going to eat, right? You could drive your decision, because now you see this too, by the calories associated with what you're going to get.
Sure.
Right? So you're like,
knowledge is power. That's right.
You got 1,000 calories. So, no, I want dessert. So you'll try to negotiate things. So now imagine someone looking to make a payment and then being able to say, hey, I can get something that's there today, something that's there tomorrow, something that's there in a couple of days. And then also seeing what's the cost associated with each one of those. It's almost like, if you think about, and we've seen this in banking a lot, what would be the Amazon view of banking, right? So when you can get something, I want it prime next day, I can get it the next morning. Oh, and guess what? If you wanted it before 7 and 10, you can pay $2.99. I think sometimes it is, to get the next, that urgency.
That's
so
right.
We provide that kind of experience to customers. That also makes us very unique. The fact that we basically focus on how can we make their banking easier so that they can focus on their business. In most cases, if you ask any founder, if you ask any business person, how much time do they want to spend on banking? I don't think anyone's going to raise their hand and say, I want to be there all day.
Sure. Well, and so I want to turn now to a couple questions for you, Milton, on the acquisition. So first, Citizens Bank acquired Silicon Valley Bank, and I'm curious what life is like now with this new ownership structure.
We have a great parent, one that is committed and is also laser focused on the innovation economy, and very supportive. And you'll see, even just recently, our solutions were recognized by Celent as being awarded a platform that is transforming the way cash management is done. And a lot of the topics that we've been talking about today has been about how do you transform and what type of client base we have and how we make things simple. And they've been incredibly supportive when it comes to our client base. They've also been learning our client base, because let's face it, they were a different bank, and while now together we are a different bank, spending a lot of time understanding our clients' needs, and really focus on how do they support us to be successful, but at the same time giving us the space to be Silicon Valley Bank. So you'll notice that there's a lot of communication depending on what part of the country that you're in. Well, you'll see our campaign of Yes SVB. Because they'll say, wow, you guys are still the same. Your name hasn't changed. Your practices are still the same. Your people are still the same. Everything is the same. But what we have that is different is that we have a fantastic parent that's supporting us, that's enabling us, that is really looking to learn more about our client base. And I expect that as the years continue to pass, that there's going to be more synergies that will happen between the organizations, and will be mutually enabling each other, because they have some great strengths and we have also some great opportunities and also strengths that are coming together to create a franchise unlike, I would say, anything that the industry has seen for our space. So it's really positive.
Well, that's fantastic to hear. A question that I have, a related question for you. I have been through an acquisition, and in my experience, it became two jobs, and it was sort of the job of doing the day job, but then also helping the acquiring company better understand what we bring to the table, or how there is opportunity to do things differently. Has that been your experience, where it feels like, in some respects, two jobs, or no?
It has and it hasn't. It's almost like when you're getting to know someone for the very first time. Think about it like if you sit down at a table with someone and you sit down with 5 different people. To truly connect, you want to learn about them. You hope that they want to learn about you, and you try to find common ground. Right? That's the value proposition of any kind of relationship building, and that's clearly what we've been doing. So there is opportunities where we've been looking at what each of us do, and it's no different than when you asked the question about how is Silicon Valley Bank different from other banks, or how it's similar. And we do find that we have similar capabilities. We do find that our clients behave differently based on where they are and who they are. And so the relationship at this time, and continues to be this, is one of we're mutually learning. We're mutually looking at opportunities where we can improve, where we can actually scale. Like one thing that is something that is clear, our clients are digital first. The consequences of that is Silicon Valley didn't have a branch network. Like when you go, like, you don't find tellers for Silicon Valley, right? What you find is office space where you can do pitches, where you can meet, and you can have some wine too, which is, I think, pretty cool for banking. Then, now, when you look at First Citizens, they have a network that expands our reach, physical presence, and then it also brings in capabilities that we didn't have, that physical branch capability. And that is something that I think is incredibly valuable, especially when we've been brought up digital first. So all in all, what I would say, Riza, is that the experience has been one of mutual sharing. There has to be that exchange. And I'd say we continue to learn every single day, and we continue to plan and see how we can work together and grow as a franchise and be more for our customers.
Amazing. Well, Milton Santiago, thank you so much. We are wrapping up now, and I'm going to ask you a question that we ask all of our guests on This Is Digital. And that question is, what does digital mean to you?
Digital means to me to be able to experience, and I'm using the word experience, not transact, to experience things much faster, but also more deeper than you do in an analog world.
I love that. And then a final question for people that would like to stay connected to you and what you are up to at Silicon Valley Bank. What is your social media platform of choice?
I try to say LinkedIn. I'm really, really bad at LinkedIn, but I've been trying to get better at LinkedIn. So I would say LinkedIn is the place where you can really find me. My wife tells me I have to do more on LinkedIn. So she's kind of like my social media manager. She says, "Are you not doing enough there?" So LinkedIn, I would say LinkedIn is a place where you can find me. We're going to be at Emerge coming up in the following week in Miami. I try to make my way through the speaking circuit. We've just been really busy building and creating things and meeting with clients. But conferences and then LinkedIn, you can find me.
Fantastic. Well, Milton, thank you so much for joining. This is Digital.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to This is Digital. If you enjoyed today's show, please follow or subscribe on your preferred podcast app. And don't forget to leave us a review. For more information on This is Digital, visit westmonroe.com/thisisdigital.